The past hour, multiple explosions have been heard in several parts of the Iranian capital, Tehran, as U.S. and Israel continues its attacks. Iran's Revolutionary Guards also launched a drone attack at a U.S. base in the UAE, hitting a satellite communication center. For more on this, I'm joined by Ali Vaez from Geneva. He's the director of Iran Project and senior advisor at the International Crisis Group. Great to have you here with us on TRT World. Like I have been saying over the past few hours, it's really hard to tell how all of this is going to come to an end, because the rhetoric coming from the Iranian leadership is the exact opposite of the one that we're hearing from the American leadership and the Israeli leadership. While mediation efforts are underway right now, how do you think the differences between the two sides can be brought to an end?
Look, at the end of the day, this is a race against time, given the fact that there are limited number of ammunition on both sides. Iranian access to their drones and missiles is not infinite, and so is U.S. access to interceptors for shooting down Iranian missiles and drones, especially given the fact that geographically this is very widespread. And so there is real strain on the ability to have access to ammunition. So that's one question that will be determining. Second question is the economic cost of this, which is very high for the U.S. and its allies. It has paralyzed life in Israel and the Gulf states, and it's jacking up gas prices in the U.S. In an election year. There are different scenarios of how this can end, but it has to reach a stage that either side calculates that the cost of continuation on this course is outweighing the potential benefits.
Ali, what I'm trying to understand, do you think the U.S. side knows what is the military capacity of Iran? Because in the lead up to this latest escalation, there were multiple reports by U.S. intelligence which basically shows that they had no idea about the number of ballistic missiles Iran has right now. So given there's this uncertainty over the actual capacity of Iran, how do you think the U.S. is going to be responding in the next few days?
Look, I think it's almost certain that President Trump went into this thinking that it would be easier than it has actually played out to be. That he thought Iran would be in its most weakened position, and by eliminating the political and military leadership, it would quickly fold. Now we see 1 week into this conflict, it hasn't. And we also have to remember that during the June 2025 conflict, that it was really after the second week of war that the tide started turning, and Iranians managed to bring out more powerful missiles and target Israel in a much more effective way when the interceptor stockpile was running really low. So do we see a repeat of this in this conflict, or has the U.S. successfully managed to degrade Iran's retaliatory capacity? We don't know. Is Iran pacing itself out so it can turn this into an attritional conflict? We don't know. So there's still a lot of uncertainties, but I think there's one thing that is clear. What can really disrupt shipping out of the vital Strait of Hormuz and also normal life in the Gulf states could be very cheap drones that the Iranians would be able to continue to produce, regardless of how much the U.S. can degrade their capacities. And that would be what the Iranians can use to prolong this conflict and make the U.S. blink first.
And, when it comes to prolonging the conflict, if you look at the statements coming from Ali Larijani, the security chief of Iran, all indications, from his statements at least, show that Iran is ready for a prolonged conflict right now. But the thing is, Ali, his statements are in contradiction from what we are hearing from the Iranian president. For example, the Iranian president indicated that there is mediation going on and that Iran is interested in diplomacy. But Ali Larijani, a few days ago, completely ruled that out. So is that perhaps an indication that there is some sort of conflict going on within the Iranian leadership when it comes to this conflict?
Look, President Pezeshkian is one of the weakest presidents that the Islamic Republic has ever had. The power is really in the hands of Ali Larijani and the Revolutionary Guards. So I don't think we should take what President Pezeshkian is saying too seriously. And I still don't see the sign of serious fractures at the top of the political system. There have always been differences in Iran in terms of policy choices or tone of how those policies are presented to the rest of the world. But at the end of the day, this strategy is primarily designed and implemented by the Revolutionary Guards and not the president.
And Ali, what's your navigation through the internal dynamics of Iran right now? A few weeks ago, we saw massive protests in Iran, and of course, at the time, we saw the US president and the Israeli prime minister calling on the Iranian people to rise up against the regime and topple it, but certainly that's something that did not happen. And right now, correct me if I'm wrong, the way I'm reading it, based on the pictures that are coming to us from many different Iranian cities, the protests that we are seeing against the US and Israel, it perhaps goes to show that by killing the supreme leader of Iran, the US and Israel, they have both changed the equation of the internal dynamics within the country. If anything, now there is more support for the regime among the Iranian people. Is that accurate in your view?
Look, I think that's very difficult to judge from a distance and without really having any kind of reliable surveys. The reality is that there are a lot of Iranians who are happy that their tormentors are killed or are weakened, but they don't want to come to the streets under heavy bombardments from the US and Israel. And they might not even be able to come to the streets once this war is over because it is very hard to completely suppress the regime's repressive capacity. And the Iranian people are unarmed, don't have organization on the ground, and are leaderless. So expectation that they would be able to take matters into their own hands, I think, amounts to a lot of wishful thinking. But there's also another element that we should take into account, which is that the longer this war goes on, the more there are civilian casualties, the more the country's infrastructure is attacked, the more President Trump pursues maximalist demands of full capitulation or surrender, the more he creates anti-war sentiments within ordinary people, and the more he basically pushes the political elite to coalesce because they don't see an exit ramp.
Fascinating insights. Ali Vaez, thanks very much for joining me here on TRT World. I really appreciate your taking out the time.